What if I told you that in the second week of testing in Bahrain, the FIA confirmed that the rear wing of Lewis Hamilton's SF26 can rotate up to 180 degrees, and that single piece could be at the limit of what is allowed by the 2026 regulations? Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. Because we are not talking about a simple evolved DRS. We are talking about a solution that reduces straight line drag like never before seen in modern Formula One, which gave Ferrari up to 12 km/h extra in Sakhir, and which left the paddock completely shocked when the official data came to light. The question is clear. Has Ferrari found technical genius within the regulations, or are we facing the next technical directive that can change everything before the season begins? The second week of testing at the Bahrain International Circuit stopped being a simple preparation phase and became the most important technical turning point of the pre-season. Mientras la mayoría de equipos estaban centrados en correlacionar datos, a finer mapas de motor, y validar simulations de carrera, la atención empezó a desviarse lentamente hacia el garage de Ferrari. Not because of an isolated stratospheric time, not because of a run with little fuel, but because of something much deeper. The way Lewis Hamilton's SF26 behaved on a straight line compared to the rest. At first they were suspicions. Visual comparisons on the main Sakhir straight showed the Ferrari gaining unusual meters even against cars that were theoretically unloaded. Then came partial telemetry data shared between teams, and finally confirmation from the FIA. The SF26's active rear wing wasn't just moving, it was rotating up to 180 degrees in its extreme low drag configuration. To understand the magnitude of what happened in that second week, we must place ourselves in the regulatory context of 2026. The new regulations introduce more complex active aerodynamics, allowing certain elements of the rear wing to change position depending on the phase of the lap. The FIA's intention was clear: to improve energy efficiency, facilitate overtaking, and balance the dependence between downforce and drag. But in the wording of that standard there is a crucial detail. The speed of movement of the active element is regulated, but the maximum angle of final rotation is not explicitly limited. Ferrari detected that void. The concept they tested with Hamilton in Bahrain consists of a rear flap capable of adopting a practically inverted position on a straight line, radically reducing drag. It is not simply opening the wing as in traditional DRS. It is transforming the aerodynamic profile to the point of completely altering how the air interacts with the surface. In practical terms, the wing goes from generating high load in a curve to behaving almost like a profile of minimum resistance in a straight line, optimizing the top speed and efficiency of the hybrid system. During the long runs of that second week, the increases in top speed moved in the range of 10 to 12 km/h compared to previous references. On a circuit like Bahrain, where long straights and traction zones after slow corners are decisive, that figure can mean several tenths per lap without the need to compromise the second technical sector. And that's where the concept starts to be really dangerous for everyone else. Because the SF26 did not seem unstable upon returning to high load mode. When the system returned to its closed position to tackle medium and slow corners, the transition was clean. The steering data showed few corrections by Hamilton. The rear remained planted and traction at the exit was not compromised. This indicates that Ferrari not only found a regulatory gap, but managed to integrate it coherently with the car's overall balance. But here appears the first major narrative conflict of this story. Every time a team exploits a gray area of the regulations so aggressively, the natural reaction of the paddock is twofold: technical admiration and political pressure. During that second week in Bahrain, several rival engineers began to carefully analyze the onboard images and high-speed captures of the Ferrari's rear wing. What seemed like a simple aerodynamic adjustment became the center of private conversations in the pit lane. The FIA, by revealing technical data on the operation of the system, confirmed that it complies with the current wording of the rule. But that does not mean that it is shielded from a future technical directive. The history of Formula One is full of legal solutions that forced rules to be rewritten in a matter of weeks. And the fear of some teams is clear. If Ferrari has achieved such a significant advantage before the official start of the season, what will happen when they optimize the concept further? What started as a technical detail ended up becoming the dominant theme of the second week of testing. It was no longer just about times or race simulations or fuel loads. There was talk about whether Ferrari had redefined the concept of active aerodynamics before the 2026 era even begins. But every technical revolution has consequences, and the second week of testing in Bahrain not only confirmed the potential of the SF26 rotary wing, it also set off all the alarms within the paddock. Because when a solution offers up to 12 kilometers per hour extra on a straight line without losing stability when cornering, is no longer a simple innovation and becomes a direct threat to competitive balance. The big question that began to circulate among engineers and technical directors was not whether it was legal, because under the current wording it is, but how long it will continue to be legal. The FIA made it clear that the system complies with the regulations as written today. But in Formula One, it is not enough to comply with the letter of the rule. The spirit of the regulation also matters. And this is where the Ferrari concept begins to bother. The 2026 active aerodynamics were conceived to improve efficiency and facilitate overtaking, not necessarily to allow completely inverted profiles that radically transform straight-line flow behavior. During that second week in Sakhir, several teams began analyzing the slow-motion footage of the SF26 in detail. What they detected was that in low-resistance mode, the wing not only opened, but also modified its angle to a point that completely changed the pressure distribution at the rear. In simple terms, the car stopped dragging air like the rest. This implies lower energy consumption on the straight line, better deployment of the hybrid system, and more strategic margin. And here comes the second level of the problem. In 2026, energy management will be even more critical than pure downforce. If Ferrari can reduce resistance so aggressively, the hybrid system works in more favorable conditions. This means that not only do they gain top speed, but they can also better manage energy discharge and recovery, something vital on a track like Bahrain, where long acceleration zones punish the battery. This creates a domino effect. If Ferrari can achieve greater speed with less energy consumption, it can defend itself better on the straight, attack with more margin, and reduce dependence on traditional aerodynamic compromises. In other words, the concept is not just fast, it is strategically powerful. But not everything is advantage without cost. A wing that rotates up to 180 degrees is subjected to extremely variable structural loads. The transition between modes involves abrupt changes in aerodynamic pressure. If the mechanism fails, if there are unexpected vibrations, or if a system loses synchronization with the electronic management, the car can become unpredictable in milliseconds. In testing, under controlled conditions, everything may seem stable. In real traffic, with turbulence and aggressive slipstreams, the story may be different. Ferrari has played a very risky game. If the FIA maintains its current stance and does not issue a technical directive limiting the angle of rotation of the rear wing, the SF26 will begin the season with a structural advantage that is difficult to neutralize in the short term. We are not talking about an incremental improvement. We are talking about a concept that alters the relationship between load, resistance, and energy management. In a regulation where every detail counts, that can mark the beginning of an era. But if the FIA decides to intervene, the blow would be double. Not only would it force Ferrari to redesign or limit the system, but it would send a clear message. The spirit of the regulation is above the extreme interpretation of its wording. And that would completely change the panorama before the official start. The most interesting thing is that this situation puts everyone in an uncomfortable position. Rival teams must decide whether to invest resources in replicating a concept that could be limited in a matter of weeks, or to lobby politically for a revision of the rule. Any wrong decision can cost months of development, and in a transition to 2026, every month counts. In parallel, Ferrari faces another challenge: to demonstrate that this innovation is not only spectacular in testing, but sustainable in the race. Because in Bahrain, everything happened under controlled conditions. No real traffic. No wheel-to-wheel duels. Without constant turbulence. The real test will come when the wing has to change configuration under pressure, with another car close behind, and with tires in advanced degradation. And this is where the narrative reaches its climax. If the system resists, if it maintains stability in curves while offering that brutal drag reduction on the straight, we will be facing one of those moments that define technical cycles in Formula One. Like the double diffuser, like blown exhausts, like the DAS. Solutions that are born at the border of regulations and force everyone to react. But if something fails, either mechanically or politically, history will change completely. Because Ferrari has not only exposed an innovation, it has exposed its strategic interpretation of the regulations. And that always has consequences. The second week of testing in Bahrain did not leave a simple top speed figure. It left a question that now dominates the paddock. Are we seeing the birth of the dominant aerodynamic concept of 2026, or the start of a regulatory battle that could redefine everything before it begins? What is clear is that Ferrari did not go to Bahrain to hide letters. She went to show how far she is willing to take the regulations. And when one team does that, it forces everyone else, including the FIA, to move. Because in Formula One, the big revolutions don't start on Sunday in the race. The second week of testing in Bahrain was not simply another chapter of the preseason. It was the moment when the FIA confirmed that Ferrari is willing to take the 2026 regulation to its absolute limit. The SF26 rotating rear wing is not a simple technical detail, it is a declaration of intent. Is Ferrari saying that it is not going to wait for the new era to begin to mark territory? Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.